Welcome to Conversations with TO. I'm Terry Owens. In a world of endless hustle, how often do we really pause to talk? Here, we dig deep with business leaders, artists, educators, seasoned pros, and people just like you. We dissect experiences, triumphs, and setbacks, all aimed at equipping you to navigate your journey more effectively. So let's get down to what really matters on this episode of Conversations with TO. My guest today is the classic definition of a Renaissance man. He is a philanthropist, an educator, a musician, a preacher, an entrepreneur, and the epitome of a family man. I am pleased and privileged to welcome Dr. Anthony Brown to Conversations with TO. Good morning,
Thank
sir.
you, Terry. Good morning. Hey, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I'm flattered.
Oh, well, you deserve every bit of it. You deserve every bit. Dr. Brown, with such a diverse portfolio of roles, it's almost hard to know where to begin with you, but I want to start with your music. When did you discover your gift for music and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, it's a 40-year musical career. Now, I should emphasize, and I share this with persons, even when I was younger. So I've got some years on my life, thanks to God. Even when I was younger, I knew I could sing. 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, I knew I could sing. However, I was just a bit intimidated. I was heavy and I had a high pitched voice. So when you were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old growing up in Baltimore City, I didn't really want to sound like a girl. So even though I knew I could sing, I just never shared it. It was something I kept within the confines of my mind and my private space. But when I went to college at Towson University, one of my goals beyond getting a degree, one of my goals was I was going to join the gospel choir. I had done some singing as a part of my high school choir, but I was going to be brave enough to start singing with the gospel choir. I did, and the rest is history.
And as a result, you have performed around the world. Where are some of the places you've sang, and do you have a favorite memory you can share?
Indeed, I've been very blessed. I tried out for, this will take persons way back. It was a Kentucky Fried Chicken gospel competition. I lost. I lost the competition, but I met an individual by the name of Bill Cummings, who's a musical director at a Catholic church here in Baltimore. And he invited me to become a part of his touring choir. And they went to Europe each August, and I went with them for about 7 years. London, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, all over Italy, France. Each summer I toured with that group. All the memories are amazing. Audiences with the Pope. All the memories are amazing. And I was young and I was learning, and my voice, I could sing forever, and this music was so great. The music that Bill wrote was so beautiful, and I could sing it forever also. So the entire experience is a great memory. So that's on, as Aretha Franklin would say, the other side of the pond. But over here, I've had the opportunity to sing all over the United States too. And I mean, the memories, it's so many. I guess if I had had an advance on that question, maybe I would have narrowed it to one. But I would say the sum of all of it, just makes me very, very grateful that I've been able to use this gift that God gave me for music.
And you've not only performed all over the world, you've also recorded. Talk about what that journey's been like.
Yep. So I was brave enough to start a journey of recording. Always wanted to release a Christmas CD. Christmas music has always been my favorite form of music. And so in 2006, pursuing dreams, I released a Christmas CD entitled Dreams Come True This Christmas. I wrote a couple of the songs for the CD, and I recorded some of the standards. And since recording that CD in 2006, I've recorded 7 CDs and then some live music videos. And those CDs, it's a CD of hymns, praise and worship, 3 Christmas CDs. I love Christmas music. So it's been quite the journey. And if persons are watching, go to iTunes, and my music is all over iTunes. Dr. Anthony Brown. There's a lot of Anthony Browns floating around. So stick the DR period in front of it, and you'll track some of my music.
And somewhere along the way, you decided you should also create a foundation to help students. When did you find time to do that?
Well, it was 2008. I had released the Christmas CD, Dreams Come True This Christmas. And I discovered, oh, well, if I'm going to keep singing and have a purpose to sing, I can't just have Christmas music. So I was on a plane from Ohio. I had sung for Black History Month somewhere in Ohio, and I got a lyric in my mind for a song entitled Dream. And I wrote that song, and I flew on the plane and held the melody in my mind so I wouldn't forget it. And as soon as the plane landed, I don't know, this was 2008. I guess I had a cell phone. I guess cell phones were popular then. But somehow I recorded this melody on something. And then I wrote that song entitled Dream. It was a song of inspiration. A friend of mine suggested that we debut the song and we do a concert. And because of the message of the song, we give out some educational scholarships. Sounded like a great suggestion. So we did that. And within 2 months, I had done the paperwork to create a nonprofit foundation, the Dream For It Foundation, to give out college scholarships to high school seniors for their first year of college. And that was 16 years ago. Wow. And to date, we've given out over $300,000 in scholarships.
That's wonderful, Dr. Brown. So significant contributions. I'd love to hear if you've got a success story of one of the kids that you could share and how this funding impacted their journey.
Oh, I really appreciate that question. Keep in mind, after 16 years, we have a scholarship community of over 100 persons. Wow. And what we try to do is, beyond giving you a first year scholarship, we stay connected with these students. So we've seen them become business owners, travel all over the world, become husbands and wives, become parents. So we've watched them progress. And the stories, one of our recent early scholars just recently completed her doctorate in the field of medicine and engineering. She's teaching in Boston. We have several of our scholars who are practicing medicine. Some of them, one of our scholars who I talk to probably at least once a month, he is fluent in Japanese, African-American young man. Wow. So he has traveled extensively through Japan. He works in that field as a translator of Japanese. You see this gentleman with his dreads, and you never make that interpretation, but he started Japanese in middle school in Baltimore County, and it resonated with him. So it's just a whole list of success stories, and professionally, and I like to add the word also personally, their husbands, their wives, their parents, so I use these words quite frequently. They're adulting and they're figuring out life. And it's awesome to have played a part in their journey and to continue to watch their journey unfold. I mentioned how much monies we had given out. Not sure if I mentioned this. Last year, we were successful in endowing a scholarship at my alma mater, Towson University. So now we have an endowed scholarship there. We're looking forward to doing another endowment at Morgan State. And we're continuing year after year to add to our $300,000 giving total and awarding high school seniors. years.
And of course, none of this was occurring in a vacuum. You also had full-time jobs in senior leadership with in the transportation sector. You transitioned from the public sector to the private sector. How have you managed to juggle all of these roles at the same time, continuing your pursuits in higher education?
That's a great question. Sometimes I wonder how I do it. So I'll give a spiritual answer, which is a valid answer. God gives me the grace, strength to do it all. I've got a number of gifts that He passes through me that I'm able to use. So I don't want to overlook the spiritual grace and mercy that grounds me to do this. And then I'll give a practical answer. And I got this from my pastor. He uses this line: my priorities change every day. Not my foundational principles and values, but I have to get into a season of what do I need to accomplish today? What do I need to accomplish this week? What do I need to accomplish this month? So I have a number of things to do, but things will rise to the top. Some things will shift a little lower. At some point, they'll rise back up because I have to shift my priorities. When I'm in my fundraising season for the foundation around July, August, it's consuming all of my time. Christmas is coming, so I'll be touring with my music for Christmas. So that's going to consume some of my time. But before that, I've got Giving Tuesday. That's a huge effort for my nonprofit. So that's going to rise to the top for a couple of weeks, etc. So it's that I've read a book once, Juggling Elephants was a book I read once. It was a good book too. So that's what I'm doing. I'm juggling elephants. God gives me the grace to do it because, as you said, I've excelled professionally. I mean, I'm very, very blessed. You know this. I spent 14 years with the state of Maryland. 23 years ago, I did a faith walk and I left state government where I was doing quite well in marketing, communications, and public relations, media relations. And I took a full-time job at my church where I sat for 23 years, kind of creating, developing, and implementing the marketing program for a church. And 23 years ago, when I left the MTA, everybody was sort of like, you're going to a church to do marketing. Interesting. Not quite familiar with that, but I did it for 23 years and I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish there.
Well, we all know that life is a series of seasons, if you will. It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Can you talk about a particularly challenging moment in your career and how you navigated it?
Oh, wow. These are great questions, Terry. Challenging. I don't want to miss one. I wish I had a couple of notes here. I remember when I first started with the Transportation Authority. This has been 40 years ago, and I remember I graduated from college, so I had one basic criteria. I wanted a job where I got to wear a tie. So I don't know. So I applied, I was a college graduate, and we all graduate college and we think the world is going to be open to us and we're going to have 33 job offers and we'll choose which one we take. Well, I wasn't that fortunate. I'd worked in retail, and so I continued to do that after college, but I got a state job, and the job was a shop clerk. And I worked as a kind of administrative person for an automotive shop. It wasn't the job I wanted, but I got to wear a tie. And I went in every day wearing this necktie with the guys in the auto shop looking at me like, who is the crazy guy coming in here with the necktie on? But I got recognized by the administration building across the street. And they called my boss and said, who is the crazy guy who's going over to the auto shop in a necktie? And this individual said, he's very smart. We hired him for his potential. We think he would bring a lot to the Transportation Authority. You should talk with him. And I spent 3 months in the auto shop. They came over to me and said, hey, we want to plan a grand opening for the Bay Bridge one-way tolls. Governor William Donald Schaefer, he wants us to do more public events. Could you coordinate something like that? And I
Wow.
said, I could. And they gave me freedom to coordinate speakers and sound and chairs and decorations. And the event went great. And within a month, I no longer worked in the auto shop. I was the assistant director of public affairs.
Well, now, Anthony, you and I both know the importance of pivotal figures in our life. And was there
Yes.
a mentor or someone in your life that inspired your dedication to not only just your professional career, but your community?
Oh, wow. Thanks, Terry. Couple of names. Leroy Davis. I worked for a place called Hoshel's. It was a department store 35 years ago, 40 years ago. Leroy Davis kind of recognized me and was a role model, African American role model. So, Leroy Davis. Cheryl Saligula, she's since passed away. I worked for Hoshel's and they started closing their stores because of the economy. And every time they closed one, she moved me to one of the ones that were still open.
Mm.
I could not be let go by the company. I went from Belvedere to Kenilworth, back to security, back to the warehouse. Anthony Brown could not be let go. Everybody else got laid off, but they kept me, Cheryl Saligula, and then John Agro.
Mhm.
Uh, Met me at the Transportation Authority, moved me, he and Bill Tarr moved me from the auto shop over to the public affairs office. John Agro took me to the MTA with him, where I ultimately became the director of communications over
Mm.
media, customer service, and all the above. He introduced me to Diana Rossborough. So name after name after name, Diana Rossborough, John Agro, Leroy Davis, Cheryl Saligula, my pastor, now, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam, 23 years ago, we're going to do marketing. I remember when I went to him and said I wanted to work at the church, there were 2 people on staff. Now there's 40 or so on staff. And
Wow.
he said, you'll come and we'll figure out what you're going to do. And one of my first assignments when I came there was sort of like, hey, I think we need to build out this room so you actually have an office. So that was my first project. So my pastor, and I wear her on my neck often, and my heart always, my mother, who passed
Mm.
away a couple of years ago, inspiration. So my wife, my daughter, I got a long list. I'm standing on the shoulders of so many people who came before me and will come after me. So I'm very blessed. Thanks for that question.
Of course, success can be defined in many ways. And how do you define personal success? And what advice would you give to someone striving to lead a successful and fulfilling life?
I would define success as being aware of the gifts and talents God has given you, and then striving against all odds to use those gifts, to use those talents. So to become aware of them and then to use them, for me, is success. And I would add another thing for success too. Success in life for me is about relationships.
Mm.
Relationships. I remember one of my life lessons 20 years ago. I met Pastor on the sidewalk and I was complaining about another staff person. And he said to me, you have to learn to work with people. WITH in quotes. You have to learn to work with people. Success in life is about learning to work with people, various people. Look, the diversity of today, you have to learn to value people and value relationships. So I guess somewhere in there is my mantra for persons. Use your gifts. It'll be tough. Identify your gifts. Don't let it stress you out. What is my gift? What is my contribution? I've learned it happened. It's a revelatory process. It
Mm.
is revealed over time. If someone had told me when I was in college that I would have ended up working for a church, working at the MTAs. I didn't major in mass communications. I got the job that all of the people who, like you, who majored in journalism and communications, I majored in political science. So I took one of your jobs to become the director of communications for the MTA. It was based on relationships and kind of recognizing people saying, hey, you know, you really are articulate and you really can coordinate and juggle things, et cetera. And my pastor would tell me, you know, you really have the gift of vision. You know, you're able to see things that don't exist, my nonprofit and all. So just kind of those things being revealed to me, grabbing it, taking a hold of it, and doing the work to make it happen.
So Anthony, where does this drive, this passion for new challenges come from, and how do you sustain it?
You know, I think some of it, I get to mention another person. My father died when I was 15,
Mm.
but I think he also valid or qualifies as an overachiever or something. You know, he just was very driven. He's very driven. So I would have to say it comes from God. I mean, I didn't like orchestrate it. It's just sort of my personality. People know this about me. Anything I do, I'm going to give it 140%. I can't half do something. So it's just me. And I'm at the point at age 60 where I can't apologize for it. I am who I am. And I pray and have to breathe every now and then, and I get a high off of contributing. So I would offer that.
Okay, last question. Let's talk about legacy and the kind
Yes.
of legacy that you hope to leave through your work and what impact you hope to have on future generations.
Wow. Legacy. That was the theme. Each year, my nonprofit does a benefit concert. That was the theme. Last year was legacy. So in our legacy, 30, 50 years from now, somebody will be getting a scholarship from Towson, and they'll be able to say that they got that through the Dream For It Foundation. And maybe not. They'll look on the paperwork and they'll see the name Anthony Brown, and that'll be a part of my legacy.
Mm.
However, I would add, you talked about, I said I was standing on the shoulders of greats. So I've got grandparents,
Mm.
I've got aunts, I've got uncles who poured into me. And I recognize who I am is because they were. And some of my legacy will be some of these students, my daughter, who I have impacted, who will be able to say, some of who I am is because of who Anthony Brown was.
Mm.
That will be my legacy. And it may not make history books. It may not be lined in the pages of a new Bible because they may not redo the Bible, but it will be in the hearts of individuals who will remember. uh, uh, I get to mention another name, Harlow Forward.
Ah,
I,
yeah.
I met him a month before I started my nonprofit. I had written the song Dream. I had went to one of his breakfasts. I went to him and asked if I could sing the song at his breakfast.
Mm.
I called him and found his number. He told me to come by his house.
Mm.
I stood in the kitchen and he was like, okay, sing the song. I'm like, right here. He's like, yeah. I sang it. He was like, oh yeah, that'll work. You'll sing it at the breakfast this Saturday.
I love
Harlow,
that.
Harlow Forward, his name is seated in my heart and in my mind. I'm a part of his legacy.
Mm.
He doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
He doesn't even, he's enjoying heaven. His
Yes.
wife, his son, they don't even know it. But
Yes.
some of what he was contributes. So it's this divine continuum.
Mm.
So if I get teary when I think about this,
Mm.
if I can, as the song, help somebody as I pass along, that'll be my legacy. If I can keep this train moving, if I because 100 years from now, people, they may not even remember my name,
Mm,
but somebody stood in this gap, occupied this slot, the dash, as they say on
mm,
your tombstone,
mm, mm,
and were faithful to what they needed to do. Weren't perfect, so
mm.
far from perfect, made mistakes. If I could do it all over again, I might have done this differently, might have done that differently, but I was faithful in the dash of what I was supposed to do. That'll be my legacy. And then I'll get to go to
Dr.
heaven and walk around heaven all day with Jesus, and I'll be happy. So that'll be
Doc-
fine.
Dr. Brown, thank you so much for making time
Thank
for
you.
us today. I so appreciate it, and I wish you continued success, Dr. Anthony Brown, founder and president, CEO of the Dream For It Foundation. You can find him online. Do support
Yep.
him in his endeavors.
My
And
music, iTunes, Dr. Anthony Brown, and then the website for the foundation, www.dreamforit.net. Dreamforit.net. Donate or send a young person in that direction to apply for a scholarship.
got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And there we have it, another episode of Conversations with TO wrapped up. A heartfelt thank you to our guest, Dr. Anthony Brown, and to you, our dedicated viewers. We all strive for success, but it's the insights and wisdom gathered along the way that make the climb worthwhile. I'm Terry Owens, signing off until next time. Keep breaking barriers, pushing boundaries, and most importantly, find a way to enjoy the journey.